So how about we just start a discussion amongst ourselves then about these very issues that are concerning. And for the sake of the recording, can we just start with Rachel and have you introduce yourself to the panel?
My name is Rachel Chunglo. I am the distance learning coordinator for PUSD this year. Normally, I am a kindergarten teacher. This is my 9th year, I think, 9th year as an educator. I have a bachelor's in journalism and then a master's in early childhood education. And yeah, that is me.
Thank you, Rachel. Heidi, can you tell us about yourself and your background?
Sure. I am Heidi Ziz, and my husband and I are in camp ministry here at Prescott at UCYC. We are bio and adoptive and foster parents to 6 kids that are part of our forever family and some that kind of come and go. And I have a degree in early childhood education and taught in the classroom prior to having my own children. And then our kids they range in age from 3 to 15, and we homeschool all of them. And I've been homeschooling for, oh gosh, almost 9 years now. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Heidi. How about you, Julie?
I'm Julie Youngsma, and I'm the co-director at La Tierra Community School. It's a charter school for kindergarten through grade 7 presently. I've been involved in the school in a variety of positions. This is my 8th year here. Became co-director the end of 2018, 2019. So this is my 2nd full year as co-director. On a personal front, I have 2 kids my son is a 5th grader here at our school, which is presently 100% distance learning. And then I have a daughter who is a freshman at Prescott High School, and she is doing the AB hybrid model. So I kind of have some experience in both of those from the parenting front.
Thanks, Julie. And Karen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm Karen Bond. I've been homeschooling my kids for, I think this is their 18th or 19th year. I tend to lose track. I have 13 kiddos, graduated 4, so I have 9 still left at home, ranging from almost 3 up to 17. She'll be graduating this year. And what else? What else am I supposed to say? I have a degree in elementary ed, special ed, and dabbled in Spanish and health ed. How's that?
Fantastic. Really an impressive group of women you all are. And so again, we're just really grateful that you can all meet, and we're just going to discuss some of these topics. And you have a lot of knowledge and experience. And the title of the webinar is Help My Student is Struggling, Tips from the Trenches. So we're just going to start off by asking you, and you can talk at any moment that you feel that you want to share, getting started, basics for success. What would you tell parents are the basics for success in your opinion and in your experience? You got my outline, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
So I don't know. I mean, I had 4 tips. I think that's what kind of on the outline was kind of like some tips for success. And I didn't go with the ones that we see everywhere, like have a designated space and all those things. I was trying to go a little bit deeper and try and find some things that frustrated parents I might be pointing them in the direction of. And so I do have those 4 tips. So for me, the 4 tips that I always start out with parents is to make sure that they're giving their students or their children an opportunity to do some movement during distance learning. And so I think a big thing for me is when I really thought about it is when we're in the classroom, there's always like some movement built in, like whether it's built in through the teacher having the students do some movement, or it's built in with the student who's just starting to feel a little fidgety with just sitting and, you know, being like, oh, I have to sharpen my pencil that's already sharp, and being able to get up and walk across the room, they're able to kind of get out some of that movement. And what I've seen with our students online is that this is a new format and they feel like they have to sit right here. Like they're not allowed to move. They're not allowed to like step away. And in some ways that's true. You know, the teachers are saying, you know, we have to be able to see you. So we know you're not over on the couch, you know, playing a video game. And so the teachers have to be able to see them, which is also different than being in the classroom. So for me, I think one of the big tips for me is to make sure that you're building some movement in. And some ways to do that is like having like a yoga ball that the kids can sit on and kind of do some bouncing. You know, I'm super fidgety, like I'm always sitting in my chair, like, you know, wiggling back and forth. And so maybe having a wiggle chair or a wobble chair. Or a friend of mine, her daughter's really big on, she gets uncomfortable sitting, you know, for an extended period of time. And so she just has a, like a Sterilite, you know, tote on the desk, like next to her normal, where her sitting station is, where she can just put the laptop up there and she can stand. So the teacher can still see her, but she can kind of get some wiggles out, or she can, you know, readjust so that she's more comfortable. So I think kind of building in some of those ways that the kids have some control over not feeling like they have to sit perfectly still right in front of a computer is a big tip that I give a lot of people. So, so that's one. The second one for me is to, I encourage parents to have like a fidget box by their students' work area. And so not something that'll distract them or like take their attention away, not something that they have to focus on to do, but just some tactile things that when they're starting to like lose their attention and kind of like feel like that nervous energy maybe coming about, that they have something that they can use their hands just to like keep them busy and keep them a little bit mentally focused, because they're able to get out some of that anxiety. So like we have like a lot of the Theraputty and things like that, like keeping that like near their station so they can just like have that movement, or like a stress ball. In my son's box, who, like I said, is 5th grade, like we have like some rocks or things like that that he can just kind of like hold and like rub in his hand when he just like kind of needs that little extra something. So I think fidget boxes are a great idea, and you can really cater them to different grades. So like the younger kids, like maybe have a little stuffy that they can just like hold on to, or the stress ball or some Theraputty. And in the older grades, maybe it's a Rubik's Cube, as long as it's not going to like distract their attention. But if they're a kid that can just, you know, my son also has like this snake thing. I don't know, it's like kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You can just like twist it. And, you know, if it's something where the kid can have the Rubik's Cube and just kind of play with it without it diverting their attention, like it's a good kind of distraction for them. So they get moving in the fidget box. I think another thing is having encouraging words for the students. And I think this is a new thing for all of us, and it's really hard. It's hard work. Like it's so different from what they're used to. So I think encouraging them effectively. And so there's a formula for that. The formula that we use is actually I have it written down, so I have to look at it. So I say it right. So it's like you, and then what they did, and then the word so, and then how it was helpful. So an example would be like when you notice your child doing it, you use the hands up signal, so the teacher knew that you wanted to speak. Like you're just noticing that they're doing things right. Because I think a lot of, in this new format, a lot of times kids are like, well, I put the hands up, you know, my hands up signal up, but I don't know if that was right, or I don't know if that's what I was supposed to do. And I think just noticing that they're doing those things and kind of giving them that feedback that I noticed that you did that, and that was, you know, that was what you want to do. That's, you know, a good thing to do. And also when they're struggling, kind of the flip side of that is when they're struggling to master a skill, to like help encourage them in that way also. So it's like, my favorite example is, you haven't gotten it yet, but you're learning more every day. you'll get there. Just keep trying. You know, you can, like, just kind of giving them that thing, like the positive that you are learning more. You still haven't gotten that, but just keep trying, keep going, you can do it. And my fourth tip is to have a visual schedule and a tracker for them to be able to track what's going on during the day. And so younger kids, obviously you want to have that a visual schedule, so that, like, pictures included, so that they can track what's going on, and then a way to track it, so like a clothespin or something that they can move throughout the day as they go through each different part of their day and know what they've been through and what they have coming up. So those are my tips.
Those trackers are so important because, especially at the younger ages, they love being able to check off the boxes and see the progress, because they don't always have the understanding of time. So if you say to a whatever 6 or 7 year old, we'll be done in 2 hours, you know, really? But they can see if they mark off with their whiteboard marker or something. And my kids love those. They ask me, please make one. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a, do you make your own trackers, or is there a template that you would recommend for that?
Who are you asking?
You, anybody, and Julie or you, I mean, doesn't.
So the ones I just make a list of what subjects they have, and then I went online and found fun icons for them. So for spelling, it's just an A, B, and C, just little ones. For literature, it's just a book. And I printed it out on a piece of paper and slipped it in a page protector. So each day they erase the day before and they start marking off what they've done, and they're fully responsible for that. And they like doing the little pictures, and yeah, it's about as easy as it gets.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know if the resource that I use the most is the Conscious Discipline website. And I did pull up, there was a webinar on how to make a visual schedule, and there's some links included with that. And it's a free resource that parents can download the schedule or the activity tracker, and it has all the cute little pictures, and you can just print it off and then, you know, cut them out and make the schedule in the appropriate way for them.
Julie, would you mind putting that web address in the chat box so we can have that as a resource?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Rachel or Heidi, do you have anything you'd want to add for your success box or your tips, your basic tips for success?
I would say, I mean, the basic tips would be kind of what Julie said she was going to avoid, the ones that are a little bit everywhere, of having a designated space. You know, one thing that we really encourage, especially for our kids that are in the full distance learning program, is having multiple check-ins throughout the day as possible. You know, we have some parents that are working and their, you know, kids are with a babysitter, and that's how I get that it's not possible for them to check in with them constantly, but at least having a morning and kind of close of day check-in so that the kids know what their schedule is, know the things that they're going to do for that day, and then giving them that chance in the afternoon to kind of decompress and comprehend what they did for the day. So just talking about, you know, what was something that you did in math? What was something that was good for you? What was something that was a struggle? What's something that you're going to work on tomorrow? And just really having those conversations instead of just, oh, did you get your work done? Because we want those kids to have ownership of their education, and we want them to also be able to kind of process emotions when things are hard. And within the classroom, it's easier for teachers to be able to do that. It's a little harder when we only see them in a virtual setting. So I would really strongly encourage parents to have those conversations, and then, you know, you can kind of build from there. If your kid is struggling with something, you'll be able to have an easier conversation with the teacher about specifically what's the struggle. So in terms of like like a checklist or a visual schedule, I encourage that as well. I do that for my girls. They have their daily schedule right above their computers, because my girls are in the extended distance learning program. And for my older kids, it's not a visual one really. It's just kind of a checklist of their to-do tasks, but having that right in front of them so that they can keep themselves accountable too throughout the day is really helpful. Gosh, I don't know, just communication is so important between like kiddos and parents, but then, you know, for the kids that are, and it's a little different for a homeschool situation, but you know, the kids that are in this distance learning, just making sure that you're communicating with the teachers, that you are aware as a parent as much as the kids are aware, because you know, even some of these older kids that we think can handle it on their own, like they still need some direction. They still need some support with organizing their activities and organizing their assignments. So yeah, I guess those would be my basics, the groundwork foundation to get everyone started.
Thank you.
Mine are a little bit different just because homeschooling is a little bit different, but I think things that are helpful would be finding other people that are doing it. And fortunately, even I'm sure that Karen has seen an even greater movement forward in this than I have, but even in the 9 years that I've been doing this, homeschooling has become a much more popular thing than it was when we started. And you can find anything on the internet when it comes to homeschooling. You can find more than you need, just like anything else. But you can find curriculum reviews, you can find free worksheets, you can find worksheets where you can make their, you know, cursive handwriting forms or whatever. And so I think that it has become, to some degree, it has become a little bit easier to find that connection. Whereas, you know, even 8 or 10, or in Karen's case, you know, almost 20 years ago, you didn't know very many other people who were doing it. And now you can find Facebook groups and different things like that, and local homeschool co-ops or groups. And so I think that one of the best things is, you know, finding someone with experience. In the same way when you're like a first-time mom, you latch on to somebody who has kids older than yours so that you don't feel like you're drowning all the time. It's the same with homeschooling to some degree, where if you can find somebody who's doing it just a step or two ahead of you, it makes it so much easier to not have to wade through all of this stuff yourself. Because even just like, hey, pick a math curriculum, well, that could take you 6 months. Like it can be very overwhelming. And so I think having that personal connection with somebody, even if you don't know them at first, just to be able to ask questions and you know, glean their insight and their mistakes that they've made and the things that they love and the things that they hate. I think that is really, really important. And as far as the school side of it, we have personally found that we're really bad at school in the afternoon. And so we get up and we do it in the morning, and we try to have school done by lunch, everyone except my high schooler. Because if we try to circle back, it's just hard. It's hard. So that's kind of a practical thing that we have found for our own schedule that seems to be better than, you know, trying to stretch it out over the course of the day.
Thank you. Karen, did you want to add anything more from the homeschool perspective?
I guess it wouldn't matter whether it's homeschool or distance learning. One thing that, in addition to routine, not necessarily a strict schedule, but definitely routine, I think just a lot of parents and kids thrive on knowing what's expected. And I think in a routine there can actually be more flexibility than just a free-for-all. Like, we don't know what we're doing today. And my biggest thing that I tell parents, it sounds a little weird, is make sure you have a box of jump ropes and balls, especially these kids who are used to going to school and having recess. We still have recess, and our kids bolt for the, you know, the gym box, we call it. And there's just something very comforting and familiar when kids get jump ropes in their hands, or stilts. Buy some stilts and some skates. Get your kids moving. Let them have that.
Well, one of the things you've already started talking about is our resources, and that's where the library comes in. That's where we see ourselves as being a resource, and we really like to listen to the community and find out what their needs are and support them in that. And I don't know if you're all aware, but we've created a new section in the youth area called Curriculum Basics, because we have seen so many parents come through that need support. So we have been moving materials over there, making them accessible. They're right by the youth desk, so we can lead parents over, or caregivers, or whoever might be doing that child's education. And we also have so many databases and other resources. Are you all aware of our resources online that we have in addition? Okay. So that's where we see our role, is being a really valuable resource tool for everyone, accessible to all people and to all kids, no matter what style of learning that they have. And so can you all speak now about resources that you would recommend to parents, whether it's, Julie sent us a couple links already, some links or specific books, or whatever it is that you found to be successful to help you in terms of teaching your kids.
I had a couple that came to mind. One of the first things that I found a long time ago was a website called, or a blog maybe, I think it's a website now, but she started as a blog writer, called One, like the number 1 + 1 + 1 = 1. And she has an infinite amount of just different kinds of like unit studies, or it's a lot of worksheets that you can print off for free. She'll do like a fall pack, or she'll do a Christmas pack, or she'll do an uppercase letter pack. And the vast majority of it is free. At least last time I checked it was. And I have found her stuff to be very helpful. She's a homeschooling mom. She also creates like sensory bins that are themed. And so she'll, you know, dye rice blue, and then she'll put little beads and dolphins and whatever, and that kind of thing. So that one was very helpful for me when I first started out and I had little tiny kids that I was just trying to start a formal education with them. And that was very good. That was very helpful for me. The other, I mean, I've read a lot of books about educating your kids, but one of the best ones that really kind of changed my perspective about how much book work we need to do and workbook time and that kind of stuff was, oh golly, I'm drawing a blank. It's about reading to your kids. The Read Aloud Revival, it's something like that. And so it talks a lot about the things that children learn just through hearing people read. And so we read a lot of books in our house. I read a lot of books out loud, and some of that is, you know, like some formal curriculum type stuff like science or history. But we read a lot of novels out loud too, and have some really good discussions around those. So that has been one that has been really helpful to me.
I'm going to jump on the reading train there. I had read an article about the fact that kids during the school year are getting about 90 minutes a day of reading time. And when the kind of distance learning and all that hit in March, it dropped down to 20 to 30 minutes of reading time that kids were getting. And a lot of them aren't even getting books anymore. They're reading, they might be reading an article online, or they're getting read to, but they're not, you know, face in front of a book nearly as much as what they were getting before. So I mean, I think one of the biggest things that the library offers is just the chance for those kids to actually read. You know, even the kids that are going on the A/B schedule, they're in school 2 days a week, and not all of these kids have access to books at home, or have access to books that are appropriate for them to read at their level. So I just think really utilizing, you know, the youth library and utilizing all the books that you guys have, and just like, I know for me, I missed out on our summers of getting our 7 books a week from the library so they could have, you know, get all their minutes in. And I think just kind of getting that back in for a lot of kids is one of the most crucial things that we can do, because, you know, when they're not getting nearly as much reading in right now, just think about how significant that's going to be for their futures.
Amen to that. Well, Rachel, I have a question for you with the school libraries. Are the elementary and libraries open? Are the kids able to go to the libraries on campus right now?
I believe so. I think that, I'm pretty sure that most of the libraries have opened now. I'm not quite sure on the process of checking out books. I know they were trying to come up with a way to still have kids pick books and still have them be returned and it be hygienic and that. So I'm not sure on all the details of how they are, but I do know the kids are going to library as part of their, at least the elementaries are going as part of their specials, rotations and that, but I'm not quite sure on all the details of how they're checking out books right now.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. I was curious about that. Anyone else like to share some resources that you found to be really helpful that you'd like to share with the rest of us?
I mean, I think the biggest one for me is the Conscious Discipline website. And part of that is, you know, that's the discipline model that we use at our school, but normally you have to be a member, and you know, there's a lot of paid programming on there, but they opened up a whole section of their website just for COVID, and it's free, and they have a lot of free resources. And Conscious Discipline is really like a social emotional based website. And so there's a lot on there about how to support our kids and how to help them deal with all of the feelings that they're having right now. And when you go to the COVID section of their website, there's a lot of options. They have videos that you can watch, they have webinars that you can watch for free, and they have articles, and embedded into all of the articles are just a ton of free resources for kids and parents on kind of how to live in this current environment that we're living in and how to best support each other. And so that's one of my biggest go-to websites when I have a question or a concern or something that I'm not sure how to address, or have a student who's feeling certain feelings and I don't, you know what to say. Like that's my go-to website for trying to find information. And there's just a lot on there right now that's free. So
thank you. And before I forget, Heidi, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat box too, that website, that blog or website
Yep.
you mentioned, and then if you can remember the title of that book, just so we can.
That'd be helpful.
And so is there anything else you want to say before we move to a question and answer segment?
Yeah, real quick, as far as the resources, the one thing that I'm running into and have been since the spring are parents who they don't have the luxury of time, like Heidi and I eased into homeschooling over the years, and we had time when our olders were little to read how to homeschool. And these parents are just jumping right in, and they want, give it to me now. How do I get started? So one thing I've been trying to pass on to people are, like Heidi has mentioned twice, it's a really good word, free. And finding those sites, Mystery Science is just a phenomenal site for the parents who want their kids to do science, but the parents can't do science for whatever reason. They want that visual instruction, and it's all laid out for you. And you can find science for any grade all the way through high school. You don't have to pay memberships. So that's a resource that I think is really crucial for parents who just want to keep that momentum going, especially as they're trying to decide, is my kid going to go back? What's going to happen over the winter? So, and they don't have the money to hire a tutor for sure. But there's so much out there that's really fun. So that's the resource I would plug big time.
Well, thank you again. If you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat box, because it helps us as youth librarians as well, so we can pass on this information to parents, because believe me, we do see a lot of parents coming through and just at a loss, especially even like the Common Core. We've been trying to order Common Core materials because you imagine, I'm sure you know, Rachel, that teaching math in the new way has been frustrating for so many parents. And when we had a homework help before COVID hit us, and our tutors had actually been trained by Shelley Reed, who's from PUSD, was coming and training them on how to tutor in math, because that's the way they were learning at school, and we wanted to make sure they were learning it the way their teachers were teaching them. So we've been looking for those kinds of materials to have in our collection to help parents who might need that support. So if you have any ideas or resources along those lines that we can have in our collection, please let us know.
Yeah, there's actually a couple. I mean, there's the amount of resources. I've got like list after list as a teacher of things that I would utilize, but it's hard to know without knowing what specifically a parent is looking for. So in terms of math, I would say that the two best for for a PUSD student would be Embark, because Embark gives guidance on how Engage New York, which is the curriculum that we use for math, it gives kind of some parent guidance and support on how to help your child with that program. And the other would be Khan Academy, just because it has the videos. Yeah, has the videos there for them. Like parents aren't having to try to do it themselves. Yeah, Khan is a really great resource once you get used to it. You kind of have to get past the, like, when you first get onto it, there's so much there that you go, but once you kind of narrow it down to the grade level and that, and there's a lot there to help.
So Rachel, Khan Academy supports the way teachers are teaching math in school?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Khan Academy, so it's free and it's really insightful videos, but it is Common Core aligned for math and for other subjects as well. But for me, Khan for math is what I always think of.
Great, thank you.
And there's also still, I know this is so generic, but at YouTube. And you can find teachers putting their playlists on YouTube. My daughter's going through an AP class thanks to a gal across the country who's putting her videos online. So it's out there. There's so many resources out there.
And that's beneficial to all kids, whether they're going to public school or private or charter. It's very beneficial. And while I'm thinking about resources, I just want to plug tutor.com, which is a resource that the library has, that it's a subscription that we've purchased that allows one-to-one tutoring online, and it's 7 days a week. And Amy, correct me if I'm wrong in all of any of these numbers, but it starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it goes to 8, because tutors can tutor from kindergarten all the way up through college. And you can create an account, it's free, and all the tutors are, they all have background checks. It's a very legitimate, credentialed resource, and kids can even actually drop off papers that can be reviewed and then picked up later, checked on later. So that's just one resource the library has, and especially when COVID hit and all the kids are home, that was something we thought we could purchase and offer as a resource as well. So just want to make sure you all knew about that as well and pass it on to anyone you know that might want to utilize it. Again, it's free. And if you do have to have a library card, Prescott library card, to access it, but we can make that possible. Library cards are free.
We've had a few students use it and they've been really happy with how it's working. So.
Oh, good.
feedback has been really great.
And during this time, we've been working really hard to just wipe some of the fines away and not have fines during COVID. So we don't want that to be an obstacle for students, especially students, to have we want them to have access to resources and materials and books. We want them to read. So, well, Amy is going to take us through a Q&A. She has a couple of questions that she's going to present to you. So I'll turn the time over to her.
Hi.
Hello.
Again, thank you for joining us, all of you. So a couple of the things that we've heard from parents, whether through email, text message to us privately, just in the course of visiting the youth desk. One of the things we've heard is, going back to math, they don't feel equipped to help with math, especially those higher like algebra and geometry areas. And where can they get extra help for their kids? Whether it's through, Khan has the videos and the tutorials and stuff, tutor.com offers that back and forth. But is there anything that is through PUSD, through La Tierra, that the homeschool families know of that does provide that right now during the pandemic, where it is a bit more, like I can say, there's this problem, x times 2x plus 4 equals whatever. I don't get it, how do I do this? And that specific, problem is resolved. Ideas?
For me, I think I would just recommend Khan Academy, tutor.com. We use Engage New York, so we recommend the Engage New York website, because it kind of correlates with the lessons for our students. So those are like my 3 go-tos for math.
Anybody, anything different for those families? It's a tough one, the math piece.
Especially for those higher level, there is a resource. I'm going to see if I can remember what it was called, but there's a math app that I think that you can, where if you take the picture of the problem, it kind of will guide the kids through step by step how to solve it, but I can't remember what it was called. So I'm going to see if I can find it real quick.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
So for homeschoolers, sometimes we just already have connections, or I'll post on the Homeschool Forums. Does anyone have a math savvy college student? Because they're kind of stuck either at home too, doing a lot of distance learning. So our friends get quite a few tough math questions from my girls right now. And the other site that I use a lot is it's called the Well-Trained Mind. And they have entire forums just for high school, just for K through 6, just through middle school. And I can post a problem, and the gals there who are much better at math than me, they'll talk me through it. And it's great, and there's no charge.
Is it pretty real time, or is there like a 6-hour delay and then you?
It's pretty fast. It's a very active forum.
Fantastic.
Especially now, yeah. Yeah.
So another thing we hear from folks is that on the days that their kiddos aren't attending school, I guess it's their B-day maybe, if you have ideas for enrichment activities for those kids that are fast workers or fast learners and they get their work done, and then mom or dad are also working from home and are trying to get their work done, and what they can do to sort of keep supporting their kiddos' education, but also have some time to work on their work as well. Enrichment type things.
The best moment to have them do a research project. That's like always kind of my go-to on if I've got, even in kindergarten when I'd have early finishers, I'm like, well, what is something that is of interest of you that you can teach to me? And spend some time and put together, your presentation and however format you want to do it. And then you can teach it to me, or you can teach it to the class if you'd like when you're finished. So I think it really motivates kids when they get that choice too of, wait, I get to pick the topic. And you would be surprised how dedicated they will be when it's like their project and not something that they've been assigned.
I think that's fun too, the idea of teaching something to mom or dad, like Pokemon. You know, here you go.
I think I would also encourage, you know, we've all kind of touched on it a little bit, but especially for younger elementary age kids and you know, like preschool and kindergarten and first grade, their work is play. So let them go play, let them go outside and dig in the dirt or climb the rocks or, you know, make mud pies and all of that kind of stuff. I think that even in public school, it's hard sometimes to get them enough time to move and to play and to let their brains kind of reset. And, you know, when we do something for 5 or 6 or 8 hours, our brains don't do that for that long, and neither theirs do that even less. So I do a lot of, if you are in between subjects and I need you to wait because I have to do a read aloud, but I'm waiting for somebody else, I do a lot of like, go jump on the trampoline until I call you, or go ride a bike to the mailbox and come back, or, you know, different things like that. But I think that is something that parents probably maybe sometimes overlook because they think that it's not worth the time, but I think that it absolutely is. And the other thing I would say is similar to like do a research project is read a book and do a report on it. And that can be like an old school book report, or that can be an online, I mean, there's an online book quiz for every book you could ever dream or imagine. And I've used them in different ways. Like, I don't think you actually retained anything in that book, so you're going to go take this test. And then my super fast reader, who I didn't see coming, like gets 97%. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe you retain more than I thought. But I think that that's a good, you know, that's a good time too, to say, maybe go read for 15 minutes and then come back and tell me what you read about, or we're doing this book and then you're going to do a report at the end of it, or whatever. I think that that's good too.
So
we had some downtime with one of my younger ones, and I really, really needed them to just stay busy this last week. So I taped down just printer paper all across my kitchen floor and gave them chalk. And it kind of backfired though, because then my middle kids wanted to join in. And it turned into this art project, but just having anything on hand like that, because sometimes parents can't send our kids to the mailbox on a bike if the kid is too little, there's not an older sibling to watch. So having things on hand, you know, kids can keep busy.
all right, and my final question that was presented to us is, so you sort of assume this role of teacher, educator, but you're also parent. How do you find the balance? How do you not, I think, I can't remember who said it earlier, but not ask so much of, did you get your work done? But tell me what you learned, what were your struggles? Like, how do you find the time for being mom or dad? And then also being the one who is, you know, assigning, assessing, checking in, making sure that things are happening while traditional methods maybe aren't available to you. So like the balance for parents.
I think this is one of the hardest things about what people are doing right now in regards to school. And kind of like Karen said, I tell people, you know, people have come to me, you know, more like in April and May, and they were like, how have you done this for 8 years? And I'm like, no. You are doing something very, very different than what I do. Like distance learning at home that was forced upon you during a global pandemic is not what I did. Like, that's not even what I do right now. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know that I have any great tips necessarily, except that I just try to commiserate with people. Like, you're in a really hard spot and you're being asked to do something that nobody saw coming and you didn't choose. And I pick my curriculum. I chose to do this. Like, this is what our family has chosen, and you're in a very different boat. So one of the things that I've said, which maybe isn't popular with school administration, but I'm like, if all you're doing is butting heads and fighting with your kids, just stop for the day. Like, it's not worth damaging the relationship with your child to get the math done. And I said to my sister in Kansas, I said to her, all of these kids, like, her son would not do the stuff he was supposed to do in March and April. And I said, don't worry about it. These teachers across the United States and across the world really are aware that there's going to be these gaps, and they're going to course correct, and everybody's just going to kind of have to do the best that they can with what they're given. But if you're just locking horns and fighting with your kids all day long over sitting in front of the screen for 20 more minutes, just turn it off. Just turn it off and go read a book. Just turn it off and go to the store. Just turn it off and go get ice cream, like something, because I think that we have to remember that even though right now it kind of feels like this is going to last forever, it's really not going to last forever. And it's okay if they don't do all of the things. But what's more important is to try to preserve the relationship with your child as their parent, and let the school stuff kind of come out in the wash, I guess.
I think as a school administrator, like what you were saying, I 100% agree with you as a school administrator. So I think, your relationship with your child, that's going to continue on after this year. It's going to continue on after this school year and next school year. Like, you have to maintain that relationship. And I think that's the #1 priority. And I think the best advice I would have for that is, if you are having a hard time motivating your student, or with the teacher role, like, my recommendation would be to really communicate with the teacher, like your student's teacher, and kind of get some tips from them or some ideas from them. Being a school administrator, my son had a really hard time with distance learning. And last spring, it was hard. It was really hard. And this year kind of started out similarly. And I just really communicated a lot with his teacher, and she, talked to him over Zoom several times privately, and like, they came up with some ideas and some strategies, and now he's doing so much better independently on his own, with less of me kind of being that person. So I would really encourage people to talk to their child's teacher and really get some assistance from them. I mean, that's what they're there for. And to, like Heidi said, just really, your job is to maintain a relationship. Like, that's #1, and if it's 20 minutes, turn off Zoom and go outside and throw the ball, whatever, just do what you have to do, and just communicate with the teacher.
I would concur with that. I feel like it's not the parent's job to be the teacher, at least not obviously for the homeschool moms. You guys are a little different. But for those kids, that are at school, it's really not the parent's job to be teacher. Like, that, the teachers are there to still provide the education. Like, the parent's job is to be to check in, to help monitor that social emotional need and capacities there, and to communicate with the teacher when there are hardships. It's not always on the parent to try to tutor them in every single part of math. If they're not getting it, like, let the teacher know. They believe me, there are so many dedicated people that want to help, and they want to go above and beyond. I know for me, 3rd grade is not a grade that I ever wanted to teach. And my kid was in 3rd grade last year, April and May. And it was a little rough at times. And I would text her teacher, like, I don't know how to explain this to her. Can you help? And 2 minutes with her teacher and she'd have it. And I'd be like, we just spent a half hour, but okay. And it was really just kind of a wake up call that's not my job. My job was just to help her And my way of helping her was to let her teacher know what the struggle was.
Yeah, and I think along with what Heidi said too, like everybody's going through the same thing. You know, it's not like just Prescott and that all the kids in Prescott are going to be behind. It's the entire nation, it's the entire world. You know, there are going to be gaps, and teachers know that, and educators know that going forward. And there's things that we're going to have to figure out, you know, in the years to come. But that, you know, it's not worth getting overly stressed about in this situation. We already have enough things going on and enough stress without adding that to it. So.
Yay, thank you. I know there are so many memes online too right now for parents that are facing the homeschooling and the distance learning and all of that, and helping their friends and helping their kids. And it's the one message I keep seeing is give yourself a little grace. So thank you all very much for that.
We appreciate you taking the time to come. I mean, just in these 45, 50 minutes we've been together, you have mentioned so many valuable resources. And so we're going to combine them all, and we're going to make this recording available to our patrons. So the time that you spent today was really important to us and very valuable. And I think it's wonderful to bring all four of you together. We have a lot of respect for you and admiration for what you do, and you bring a lot of important points to the table. You all have something to share, and so we're going to make sure it gets out to the community. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today very much.
Thank you for